Hello, thank you for joining us today. We're here today to help you to learn some ways to manage your child's behaviour in a more effective way. But first, we're going to introduce ourselves so that you know a little bit more about us and what we do. So I'm going to pass you over to Mary, who'd like to introduce herself.
Hello, hi everyone, and I'm Mary William, and I am a life coach, a relationship coach, an NLP practitioner, and an IEMT practitioner. I am so passionate about working with couples, parents, and children. And in the chat I'm going to have with my lovely friend Paula today, we're going to be addressing you parents. So welcome everyone.
Thank you, Mary. So I'm Paula. I'm also an NLP for Kids practitioner and also do some coaching, working in schools and one-to-one, mainly with children and parents at the moment. So let's get started, shall we?
Yeah.
So the first thing is I'm going to share my screen. One moment. Okay, so we're going to be talking to you today about seeing your child's behaviour through a clear lens. So all behaviour from people is just communication, and sometimes our children don't actually know quite how to tell us what they're trying to communicate. And hopefully this presentation today is going to help you to understand what you can do differently to help get better outcomes. So Mary, what do you have to add to that?
Yeah, you know, when you and I, Paula, were thinking of this title and we were thinking of this acronym CLEAR, which we will tell you all about in a minute and what it means, we were thinking of the word clear itself. And what comes to mind when we hear the word clear? Clear brings to mind something really transparent, something that has no confusion, something that's flawless without any fault. And I love this word, and hence our choice of title, because if we could see our children's behavior through a clear lens, we're going to see a behavior with no blame or judgment or guilt. Let's dig deeper and see what this means.
Okay, so let's have a look at the first acronym. The first letter of this acronym begins with a C. So what do you think that might be?
Ooh, let's see.
So this is all about curiosity. I think it's really helpful to get curious with our children, and you kind of need to be like a detective to try and find out more. There's always something else going on. Maybe there's a different reason that you're not seeing straight away. So by asking questions to our children, it can really help us understand a little bit more about what's going on for them. So for example, we could say to them, like, tell me about this situation, which shows them that you're actually listening to them, which can be really helpful for them, because if they're struggling to tell you what they think and feel, then that can really be helpful for them. Another thing that could help is to say something like, I wonder what this other person might be thinking, or I wonder why you might have thought that was a good idea, because that kind of gets them thinking a little bit more differently about the situation, and it can help them start to learn to strategies themselves and get into the habit of thinking about those things.
That's absolutely right, Paula. I totally agree with what you're saying, because approaching your children with an attitude of curiosity is really very important. And curiosity starts by asking questions. Now, the tricky part is very often when we could see a challenging behavior, we jump into judgment. We actually do the exact opposite of curiosity. We're like, I know why you're behaving this way. In our heads, we're like, I know why you're behaving this way, or I know you want my attention, or I know you're just pushing the boundaries, and we're almost prejudging the situation, which is the exact opposite of curiosity. And if we're with this mindset, you can imagine the emotions, the feeling, the attitude we are handling the challenging behavior with. But exactly as you said, asking questions to try and find what's driving them, what's driving the child, what's actually going on, finding out if they are all right, and being curious is going to enable us to connect with the child and enable the child to connect with us.
Yes, yeah. And this can work for children of all ages, can't it?
Absolutely.
So we're not just talking about like young children. This, I mean, even adults, to be honest.
Yeah, you're right, because we all have our moments, and we actually want someone not to judge how we are reacting or how we are maybe presenting some anger or whatever, but we want someone to maybe know that we're having a bad day or we're hurting because something has happened. And so you're absolutely right. It works with grown-ups too, and it works with children of all ages.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think it's really difficult. We can't tell what someone else is thinking inside. Like, we're not mind readers, we're not psychic. So it's really helpful to ask those questions to just really find out exactly what's going on.
Yeah. And sometimes questions as simple as, are you all right? Is everything okay? What's the matter? So we might not even ask, be curious about what has just happened. We might not ask a question about the behavior itself, a direct question about the behavior. But if we just have good eye contact with our children and say, are you all right?
Yes, exactly. And that kind of nicely takes us on to the next letter of our acronym, actually. So the next one is L. So we had the C for curiosity, and now we have the L, which is for loving. And I think that eye contact is actually a very good first step, actually. So for me, I think as parents, you know, we love our children, but sometimes they don't always know that. And it's really important for them, especially when they're struggling. It's really important for them to really feel like we love them, no matter what's happening around them. So I think showing them that you're there for them, like really being present for them. For younger children, it helps to get down to their level. But older children, maybe you go and sit in their room with them on their beds, get into their own environment and their comfortable space, be with them, be present. And sometimes like a gentle touch on the shoulder, or if you're a cuddly family, a nice big hug can really help to remind them that you love them, no matter what's going on, that you still love them, because they really need to feel that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the truth is, even if children already know that you love them and you shower them with love all the time, when they are presenting with a challenging behavior, it's so easy to be impatient or irritated. When this comes across, the child may feel not loved in the moment. And in the moment, this is important. They don't need to just know you love them in general, overall. They need to feel this love in the moment. And as you said, Paula, the body language and the eye contact and all this is very important. And sometimes when we just see a challenging behavior, we're maybe cross, or maybe we're frowning, or our muscles are tense. So everything in our body language and facial expression is actually showing the opposite of a loving approach. Although we love them in our heart, that's not how we are coming across in that moment. And actually reminding ourselves of how important it is to be loving in the moment, because we actually love them in the moment, but just to remember to show it and express it and make sure it's coming across is actually going to make dealing with the challenging behavior much easier and very different, to give us the outcome we are seeking, because we're not seeking to punish the child, or we're not seeking to get the child to feel shame of what they've done. We're actually seeking to get them to learn what they've done. And this loving expression is actually what's going to get us to this outcome that we desire.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because if I think of my own family, actually, they're much more, the children are much more happy to share and to talk to you if they feel like you're there to help them. And without that love, like, you know, on occasion when I might have maybe raised my voice to my child, I get a completely different response. It's almost like they want to run away and hide. They don't want me to help them anymore.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so that's good. Okay, and so the next letter in our acronym is the letter A. So let's see what A gives us. Sorry, no, E. We've done C-L-E.
Yeah, we've got the E.
I can spell, I promise. So E stands for empathy, and this is really about trying to see things from the child's perspective. So really trying to get inside their head, and having asked them those questions, you know, with that, you know, coming from that loving place,
yeah,
you're going to know a lot more about what's possibly going on for the child, and you can understand and maybe even tell them that you understand. And that's when you can then try to start helping them to work through and try and find maybe better or different ways to have dealt with that situation.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Seeing things from their point of view, being in their shoe, is going to make a massive difference to how the child feels. I actually find it easier to do that if I imagine myself the age of the child and imagine what I might be feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Because knowing is something and feeling is something else. And if I'm just thinking, oh, I know how my child feels, it's not the same impression or effect as you think. If my child is 7, if I think I am 7, I'm going through this, how might I actually be feeling? Go back to this image of me being that age and go back to how I would actually be feeling. I'll very easily empathize with my child if I do that. Because even if they are, I don't know, crying for sweets, for example, and they know exactly they can't have sweets, but I would go and I'm 7 and I want sweets, and I'm going to think, of course, that's all what I want. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about the rules. That's what I want. And now, from an understanding point of view, I'm going to be handling the whole situation in a different way. I'll be able to, as I empathize, be able to validate my child. I'm going to be able to say things. I know you want sweets and I'd love you to have sweets. And then I could set the rule or explain when they can have sweets instead of, we already spoken about that, no sweets. That gives a completely different impression too.
Yeah. And it feels different when you're just saying it like that too.
Yes, because this empathy, this being exactly in their shoe, is going to be able to help me validate my child. And once you validate the child, they almost don't want what they originally wanted, because they're really seeking the validation. Because every human being, child or adult or anyone, we are seeking this inner connection, validation, approval. We're seeking all this, and it's coming across in the behavior. But once we get this inner satisfaction, it almost doesn't matter what we originally wanted.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Okay, so now we're on to A.
That's right.
This time it's A, and A stands for acceptance. Now this really is about for ourselves as parents to accept the situation, because when we can do that, we're going to be a lot calmer, and our responses are going to be much more different to how they would have been when we're in that kind of like the initial kind of angry response would have been to get cross. But now that we're loving and we've been curious and that we've got inside their heads, now we can just accept the situation, and it's almost like we're kind of empowered to deal with it in a completely different way.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. And I'd like to add to that the challenge with many parents would be what my child has just done is totally unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to remember that we're accepting the child, we're not accepting the behavior. And vice versa. The fact that I'm not accepting the behavior, it's still important for me to show my child that I am accepting them.
Yes.
Separating the child from their behavior. Sometimes if a parent, for example, says this is totally unacceptable, the child can't differentiate that this is about the behavior, not about them, because they connect themselves to the behavior. If the behavior is bad, I am bad. If the behavior is unacceptable, I am not acceptable. If the behavior is naughty, I am naughty. That's how children link the behavior to themselves.
So how would you suggest that a parent could respond in that situation? So still letting them know that the behavior is not acceptable, but without that child feeling guilty about it.
Yeah, it's a very good question, Paula. And actually, I believe that everything is possible once it happens truly inside the parent. So it's not only about what I say and what I do. The energy that I have inside me is the energy that's going to be communicated to my child. So the thing is, as a parent, I actually need to separate the two. I need to remember that I'm so upset they've done so and so. I'm so upset they have broken my expensive vase. It's totally not on that they damaged my laptop. It's totally annoying that they tore their best book that I've just bought for them. This is the behavior, but actually my level of acceptance to my child is exactly the same. And with it, obviously, the love, the curious, not judging, and all this, they all go together. So once it's in my heart that I'm actually accepting my child and the behavior is something else, and I'm able to show them all the things we spoke about, the loving body language, the finding out how they what might have driven them to do this. And so I am communicating acceptance, then I am separating the behavior and I can deal with it. And outside the moment, I can be teaching my child that they are not their behavior. People are not their behavior. And the behavior can just arise. The behavior can just happen, but that's different to who the person is.
Mm-hmm.
And you could then cuddle them and tell them, I love you, I accept you, and I know that you don't mean what you've done. I don't like that the outcome is that the vase is broken, but I know that you don't mean what you've done. And with that comes believing in them, because you're believing that this behavior is not the real intention.
Yeah, I can see that. And it's really helpful, I think, for a child to feel that they are accepted for who they are. I think you're likely to get much more out of them, aren't you? Like your relationship's going to be better. They're going to probably trust you, maybe feel comfortable confiding in you in the future.
Yes, and I think it's one of the challenging ones, but very important, because when someone feels accepted, that is more likely to lead to correction. Because if you're blaming me or making me feel guilty or judging me, I am then maybe trying to justify my behavior. But if you're accepting me, now I want to change my behavior. I want to correct my behavior. So it's still leading us to the outcome that we desire as parents. We desire that this behavior changes. So if you're accepting me and you just feel that I ended up behaving in that way, the behavior is not great, but I am still great. Now I actually want and desire to correct my behavior.
Excellent. Yes. Yes. Okay. So the last letter of the acronym is R for reframe. So the reframe really is helping yourself see things a bit differently. So if something happens that you're not happy with, try and take a moment to pause and try and see it in a different way. Ask yourself, what else could this mean? What else could be going on for my child? And also ask yourself, what could you do differently? So you've got your kind of natural, your automatic response to a situation. But if you can spend this moment just thinking, how can I do this differently to get the best response?
That's right.
That can be really helpful. I mean, even if it literally means that you wait for 20 seconds while you think about it before you step into action, it can be so helpful because you want them to learn. The whole like parenting discipline situation, it's all about teaching our children, you know, how to live their lives in the best way possible. And I think when we reframe the situation to ourselves before we go and approach a situation, it can really make a difference as to what results we get from that interaction with our children.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right, Paula. And I think reframe is very, very important because the stories we say to ourselves is going to determine how we feel. So suppose my child is lying. I can say a story to myself. I can't imagine my child is lying. That's horrible. We never lie in my family. I can't believe he's lying. What's going to happen? He's lying now. What happens when he's older? Now I am saying a story to myself that's giving me feelings of an anxiety, apprehension, maybe even rejection, maybe of what's happening, maybe anger, maybe disbelief. And all this is not going to be helpful for me as a parent and is not going to be helpful for me while I am correcting my child's behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Let's suppose I change my story and I say, oops, I noticed my child is lying. I wonder what's happening. Might he be scared? What is he actually scared of? He's hiding something. Why is he hiding? He's feeling slightly insecure to share the truth. What might that be? How can I create a safe environment for him to be able to share and not need to hide? Now I'm connecting with my child who maybe feels slightly scared, unsafe, insecure. The whole story is different to me because I am activating my compassionate feelings towards my child. And my story now is wanting me to help my child. My child is scared rather than, oh my God, why is he lying? That's totally unacceptable. So this reframe of the story I am saying to myself. The reframe is also the story, or it could be also the words I say. So sometimes I hear people saying, my child is giving me a hard time. My child is driving me crazy. And of course, if I say this, it's going to give me a particular impression, which is there's a problem and my child is causing the problem.
Uh-huh.
Now, if I reframe the words I use and I say, my child is having a hard time, that's why they're behaving this way, it's become so different. I start to feel about it very differently.
Yeah, because even just you saying that, it makes you want to help them.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
you're coming from a very different angle, aren't you?
Yeah. And like I believe that we constantly need to reframe. It's so easy to put anything that happens, whether it's our child behavior, our circumstances, anything in a particular frame that makes it either unsolvable or makes it a huge problem or makes it annoying, and we can put it in a completely different frame that activates all our human kindness, compassion, all the positive qualities and energies that we have. I'd like to compare it to if I have a lovely a lovely picture that I like, I can put it in a frame that is small and of a color that I dislike. I wouldn't want to hang it on my wall, but I can put it in a lovely frame that has a color that's so attractive, and I'd want to continue to look at it. It's the same picture, but the frame I give it will either make it attractive, desirable to look at, or I could give it a frame where I actually don't want to look at it or approach it or even know that it exists, but it's the same picture. So sometimes we focus on the circumstances have to change. My child's behavior has to change. These actions have to change. But actually, if I focus on the frame I'm giving and change that, that is going to be the tool that will help me implement the change that I want.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, that's a really nice way of thinking about it, isn't it? So just while we're, we've kind of nearly come to the end now, we'll pull up the whole acronym in a moment, but I just wanted to mention that some parents might be listening today and they're thinking, well, I haven't really got a lot of time in my life to be thinking so consciously about how I do this parenting job. And you can some families have got lots of children. It can be quite a kind of busy household with maybe 4 or 5 children, or sometimes it only takes one child to cause a lot of hecticness in a family. So how can we explain to parents how they can get from where they are now to being this kind of conscious parent and really thinking through? So I think I already mentioned about taking time to stop and pause. Another thing that I thought of was it does take practice. And I think you learn from that practice, right? So, you try something a little bit different. If something's not working, it's always helpful to try a different approach, isn't it? So,
yeah.
For example, if you did normally shout and the child doesn't respond, you might shout a bit louder, the child still doesn't respond. And you're not getting the result you want, are you? So then, maybe speaking in a calmer voice, change things about a bit, play with some different responses with your children, because you'll find that even the subtle changes can make all the difference, can't they?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. I totally agree, Paula. It's not about making big changes. It's making the small changes that make a big difference. And as you said, practice is so important. For us to move from a habit to a new habit, we need to do it again and again until this becomes our new, natural, automatic, spontaneous habit. And it's a lot of a mindset change. It's starting to think, okay, shouting or losing it or being so upset or so irritated or so annoyed isn't actually giving me the results that I want in the way I want it. So maybe I need to maybe shift my approach to make the change that I desire, and one step at a time, and practice and repetition, and this mindset of I could actually be curious, loving, accepting of my child and all that, and help my child in a very calm, positive, constructive approach, shift the challenging behavior so my child is making good choices.
Exactly, yeah. Another thing that just popped into my head, Mary, was that sometimes we'll do something or we'll try something new and it doesn't work. There's no harm in actually apologizing to your children and showing them that you're actually human.
Yes, that's right.
Because, people do make mistakes. And I think they're going to respect you a lot more for being honest about that, and by saying that, I'm sorry, I was trying to help you with this. It obviously didn't help. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'll do it differently next time.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think that brings us back to the clear acronym here. So we've talked to you about all of the steps of our clear acronym here: curiosity, loving, empathy, acceptance, and reframing. Did you want to summarize anything here, Mary?
I guess we covered it for now. I just want to say that taking any step of those is going to start to make a difference, and certainly combining all of them together is going to not just give you a positive outcome with your child, it's going to make you the person you want to be, calmer, and calmer, and obviously like finding your presence as a parent and your strengths and authority in being calm.
Absolutely, yes. And if anybody wants to reach out to us after watching this video, I'm just going to pull up our email addresses here. So you can get hold of us, either mary@nlpforkids.org or paula@nlpforkids.org. We'd love to hear from you. If you've got any feedback on this video, or if you want to ask us to do another video on a specific topic, then please feel free to contact us. We'd be more than happy to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Or if you have any questions related to your particular situation, we'll be very happy to sort of help you. If you want to say, that's what's happening with me, how can I take those tips and strategies and apply them, we'll be very happy to have a chat with you. Please feel free to reach out.